there's a lot of noise in the industry about CHAT GPT, and we had a video that did quite well on this topic. And I think we've seen a lot of change since that video came out, and it's time for a CHAT GPT 2.0 video from TEI. And I think there's a lot of noise about it, and then I think there's also what I'm seeing in the industry, and it's kind of gone to two extremes, where there's people that are professing that they don't use AI in their marketing agency, and it's an agency powered by human intelligence. And then there's another camp that isn't addressing or taking ownership of how lazy they are in only using ChatGPT at another extreme, where they're not using intellect and they've got shitty inputs, and the captions that are coming out are so eerily and uncannily robotic that there is no strategy. Right. And I want to kind of dig in more into that, because I think a lot of people are frustrated with what's going on with ChatGPT.
Yeah, like the last video got a lot of interaction because I think people are hungry for good information, and it's hard to find good information that's not just standard. And the scope and scale of how much ChatGPT will influence our life, I think, is going to be incredibly fast
And huge.
And you kind of, amongst the human sample population, you kind of have that breakdown that we've heard before. You have a certain amount of people who are early adapters, and they will just embrace all new technology and run with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails. There are skeptics who are like, this sounds interesting, but I'm going to step back, look at it, dip my toe in, make sure there's no sharks, and then move into it. And then there's the traditionalists who kind of say, hey, look, there's no way I'm going to buy a car. I love my horse and buggy. And then they just kind of double down on, what they did in the past. And what's disturbing from I think what we're seeing is there are some marketers out there that are actually branding themselves as people who don't use ChatGPT. And that should be just an amazing indicator to you if you're a business person who needs somebody intelligent to help you.
That's a red flag.
That's somebody who doesn't understand technology, and their ego thinks that that's all that's needed is their brilliant insight, because they did something once, right? So anybody who says don't use it, I think you have to question at one level kind of their capacity to help you in a world that's moving fast. Being skeptical, I think I think what we did is we're a little early adopter and skeptical just to see where it went. And I think it's became a huge tool for us.
Well, I think that people that are saying that they're honestly at this point, almost any business is not implementing AI is stupid, because it's going to be the thing that changes society, and to not understand how to leverage it and understand and use it sooner is putting you out of a job. And to me, like, especially when you understand like language, like it's a learning model. The way that we learn language, we can put together sentences. Yes, there's brilliance. Yes, there's range. Yes, there's expertise that can come into it. But the way that we learn how to put those together can be manufactured by another system that's been built to replicate language patterns in the same way.
Yeah, think of it like how people who are more articulate or better communicators often have been exposed to more stories, more reading, right? And so the more you read, the more you see stories, we can understand the context. What the language model of ChatGPT does is it can essentially read every story
much faster, and
then try and bring it out. And if you are so focused on yourself that you think you don't need ChatGPT, you are going the way of the dinosaur.
I don't even for me, ChatGPT has been a tool and a gift that allows me to love my job more, because when you're in the creative industries, you're being hired for a skill set that your client doesn't have. But the timelines, the fake imposed stress, whether it comes to like quarterly ends or budgets or investors or a launch date, stifle your ability to be creative. And without a tool like ChatGPT, getting those gears in motion didn't allow for as great of a product if you understand the power of the input. And it's using ChatGPT on its own doesn't make you great at marketing, and shouldn't be a reason for you to not invest in marketing, because the input matters. And that's what I see as an agency. Like we work as consultants and get brought into big companies where they have marketing teams and they have marketing agencies. And you can tell very quickly when you see something from ChatGPT that hasn't been refined. And for me, ChatGPT is the way to get the juices flowing. So we have deadlines all the time. Like we have to get a commercial script done by next Thursday. And it's like, if you want this to be the iconic campaign that lasts a decade, I can't manufacture that by Thursday, but I can speed up that iterative process of writing by getting the right inputs that gets me thinking in the right way to add my touch onto it to create a better product that I would have been able to get to in 4 business days.
The difference is, I think most intelligent people understand the importance of the ability to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
There's too many professionals who think they have the answers.
Yeah.
And so they come to you and they want to give the answers based on their personal experience. And they're often people you don't want to trust with your business because they're not curious. And what I like about applying CHAT GPT, it's kind of like when I'm interviewing somebody. If you just ask one question, you don't get the answer. Like you got to ask 5 questions to kind of really get at what somebody is motivated by, what they're doing. With ChatGPT, the ability to put in the right questions and then dig 5 times. That's the skill set that you're kind of hiring.
You're right.
And you need to be hiring somebody who can understand what you really want. Not necessarily what you're saying you want as a business, not what you think you want, not what your butt-kissing managers are telling you. Like when we come in, we often come in with a new lens and say, hey, guys, or girls, like, what about this? No, we never thought about this. What if we do this? Boom. It's the right questions that solve the problem. And ChatGPT is a force multiplier for intellectuals who know how to input the right questions.
I would even take it back a step, and it's not a question, it's an input, right? Because sometimes it's statements, right? It's not queries. And for me, ChatGPT minimizes the anxiety of the blank page. Because that's the hardest part to overcome as a creative is the first 5 times you sit down to write that paper or write that creative when the page is blank is very different than the ability to ask a learning model to scan hundreds of ads that have been done in this industry to provide me a framework in which to get my juices flowing. And I think that's what's changed in 2023. Go ahead.
That's triggered something in me, that the way you said that, because as that author who wrote The Art of Writing, or what that great book on
Art of War,
The Art of Writing, that one on the guy who talks about what artists suffer from when they have the blank page, is that book we read a little while ago. ChatGPT should not be a shortcut for lazy people who, like, you still always have to struggle with the art of writing.
Yeah.
So before you go right to ChatGPT, what I would suggest to marketers who want, like, I would still try to like map out the issues, map out the important points, the critical points, come up with the ideas, come up with your own thoughts, still do that. Because then when you put in a ChatGPT input, the answers come back and you learn, because you go, oh my God, they thought about this. I didn't think about that. You've now just used ChatGPT to make your brain better, as opposed to somebody, which is what we see in marketing, is they just put in questions, do a campaign for this, and then they cut, paste it. They're not learning. They're not doing the clients any service, and they're putting in stuff that you can identify as ChatGPT because it's so saccharine.
It's so uncannily robotic. But I think in the industry of marketing, pointedly, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, although it is finite, it feels like an infinite amount of ways to string together a 30-second commercial brand awareness for a client in a generic industry. And so much of marketing is subjective. Like, that back and forth experience with the client is like, they have an idea in their head that they have no idea how it's going to manifest or exist, because you've been hired to do it. And when you present to them something that you've worked hard on, they're not impressed by it, because they can't understand the work that went into writing a 30-second commercial or a creative brief, or the strategy, or the thousands of hours you put into books. And then they give you back feedback that is so non-helpful. Like, you often hear in design, it's like, make it pop. Or it's like, this is kind of missing the storytelling element. Like, they use words that like seem like marketing language, but doesn't actually provide you the clear constructive direction to provide what they're looking for, so that your job is satisfied as a professional and they're happy with the product. And that's where ChatGPT is great, is when I come out of putting down the bullets, doing the work, not having the system do it for me. And then I take that and say, okay, provide themes that hit family, storytelling, like all, and what it provides to me either tells me, right, that is the direction I should go and saves me 2 weeks of work, or it provides me something where I say, okay, this is not it. This is when this ChatGPT can't help me, or I'm not putting in the right input. And for me, it's like I think before phones and when there was just no shortage of like distractions and attention economy and clients being able to email you through the night and get access to you through text and through cell phone and through email, the creative process was more like, let's just be locked in the room and write the next season of Seinfeld. And you just didn't have so many notifications going off all day. And what ChatGPT is for me is it's that moment to have a room of minds to help me get to a product faster when I can't have the creative experience that creatives were so privy to for so many years. And those moments of silence where I can isolate myself and do the deep thinking, it's harder for me to find because all my devices go off and ping. And even with turning off notifications, my reptilian brain is so addicted to that notification checking that even when I want to take a moment of break, it's like I'm telling my brain, don't check your email. And that's what I love about ChatGPT is it can scan the internet at a rate that I can't. And it's fantastic for that reason, but my inputs are better. Like that. They think that's kind of.
Yeah. The importance, I think, to a lot of our listeners who are in the marketing world, like you have to aspire to be better. ChatGPT is a training mechanism, right? So don't use it as a way to stop thinking, right? And just make your life easier. That'll be a short-term cycle.
Yeah, make you better.
Like you have to use it. And so like when I put in some inputs. I feel
like I'm superhuman with it. I'm like, shit, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. When I put in some inputs, I was amazed at how it found things I hadn't considered.
Yeah,
and then I was able to synergize that into the next answer and next question. So the two of us together, ChatGPT with good brain is a force multiplier to get to a better answer. So don't stop training, don't stop thinking, don't start sweating, but use a technology because it's like going to a sword fight, without a sword, you know what I mean? Or going to a gunfight with a sword. I just wanted also, last week's podcast we were talking about, we kind of humorously, I mentioned the Mad Men episode of the Lucky Strike It's Toasted campaign. I recommend all marketers watch that again. And when people are asking, what most people in marketing can't do is what Don Draper did there. What ChatGPT can do is say, come up with 20 campaigns for tobacco, dealing with the fact that the Ministry of Health is not allowing you to talk about health. They'll come up with all that stuff. What a human brain who's creative, who has experience, and who's thoughtful can do is say, hey, this is how we market it, right? We come up with that kind of contextual move outside of the box of something that hasn't been done before. All ChatGPT can do is kind of synergize what's been done before and suggest it to you in a way that works. And watch that clip on It's Toasted and say, ChatGPT can't do that. You have to be the person who can do that. And that's how you get paid the most.
I love that you just brought that up because that is an angle that I wanted to touch on and I didn't think about it. Why I love ChatGPT and why I'm not afraid of ChatGPT is it can't tell the story by connecting to those deeply ingrained emotions and life moments that we share as humans because it's not a human. It makes me enjoy my job more. It makes me more effective and more efficient. But the output that comes from ChatGPT is never the end result in product. And, even another example that we talked about from the Alchemy book, where many people don't know, but like Chilean sea bass is an example of marketing magic, where the name Chilean sea bass was actually manufactured by an American seafood exporter. It was before that known as the Patagonian toothfish. And what's hilarious is that the Chilean sea bass is mostly not from Chile and isn't even a part of the bass family. And it was because Patagonian toothfish didn't sound as sexy, and he wanted to get it on fine dining American menus. And in order to do that, it had to have the name that fit. And you couldn't put into ChatGPT, create a sexy name for me for the Patagonian toothfish. Like, you need someone that can understand the nuance of luxury and price. You can get the juices flowing.
Probably if you asked for a brand for the Patagonian toothfish, they would come up with the sponge monkey from Quiznos.
Oh my God, that's funny. But and seafood has a long history of rebranding its names, right? Like the sea urchin was used to be known as whore eggs. And there's just a whole list and length of like these fishes that have been renamed so that we think it's sexy and we order them off of the fine dining menu. And that's where ChatGPT can't replace us. That ability to sell through storytelling and like higher order thinking is not coming from the agencies that are copying, pasting the ChatGPT output, or the people that are professing that we can't use it at all, because we're in an age where you need that assistance and support to move fast.
And I think it's like sports, same in marketing, same in business. Getting getting like a 70% solution, like pretty much anybody can do with the tools out there.
Yeah.
Right. But when you look at like a 100-meter gold medal winner, right, an extra 1% is the difference between gold and fifth place in some cases. And so when it comes to marketing or performance in your thing, use the tools that help you get to the point. But what you're really paying premium dollars for is the person who can give you the extra 2% and 5% at the highest level. Those are the highest percentage points to get to. It's easy to get to 85%. Every percent above that, you really have to work and do the work on. And so good minds can use those tools to give you the last percent that help you win.
No, not all marketing is treated equally. And I think that is really at the crux of this podcast. What we were getting to, without saying it so bluntly, is I wish I could say you get what you pay for, but I think there's a lot at the top that are abusing on both ends of the spectrum what ChatGPT offers and exists as with kind of the zeitgeist right now. But getting to that gold medal campaign, or like standing out amongst the noise, is understanding that it's a tool that should be leveraged. You're dumb to not be using a model that can scan information and conceptualize and sort and condense and spit out at a rate our brain can't work at. But also, in order to transcend past that data set of what it spits out to get to that winning campaign concept or idea, that's the difference between great marketing and what the future is just going to hold as far as any profession.
And this is where we might help business owners who are hiring people, because when you say you don't get what you pay for, like we've seen so many agencies come in with 7 people who look super stylish, super this, and they're just using terms that the business owner who like sells flooring doesn't get. And that's where you don't get value, is when you don't understand a service you're buying, because you can't really question it. ChatGPT would be great for a CEO or a business owner to say, okay, come up with some marketing ideas for a company that is X, Y, and Z. You can read it, and then when they come in and present, now you can know like who, at least you have like a little bit better of a base understanding, so that the kind of smoke, the bells and whistles don't like convince you to spend more money than you should. And you can assess, are these people thinking, or are they just going off a playbook that everybody else is doing and it's wrapped in a different salad dressing?
But I just want to quickly touch on this before we wrap up, because I do think it's relevant for people who are in the driver's seat for their own business because of where they are, size, budget, etc. ChatGPT is a great resource for someone that really feels like they don't get marketing to become a quasi CMO. Right, like what ChatGPT can help you with is better than actually a lot of CMOs in high-paying jobs, like what it can come up with. But also, like I've seen it in our own work and how we're working with clients, where we will come up with a concept that we think is brilliant, it's great. We would die on our sword for it. It's fantastic. But if not for ChatGPT, because it's also tough when you're a creative and you come up with an idea that you love, to separate from that idea you love and to like completely parking lot it and start from scratch. Like it's hard to do that. And it's hard to do that when you're confident in being the best. So what ChatGPT is great at is it allows us to reframe, put new inputs, get a new script, so I can start fresh in a way where I'm not delaying our deadlines for that client. So
think of it the way I look at ChatGPT is it's going to be very difficult for it to innovate. What it's exceptional at is amalgamating all current and past experiences that can be looked at through the algorithm, right? Exactly. But what it can't do is the kind of innovation. So it's exceptional for speeding up your operational tempo, because if you have a good mind, if you're just doing ChatGPT, you're only going to be kind of regurgitating what has already been done in your industry. What great thinking does is look at what's being done in a different set of frameworks and then say, hey, I can tell that this isn't going to be done in 6 months. Let's do this. Like it can't kind of navigate you towards the new, right?
Okay. Great point. Let me explain it through a case study too for those who are listening, because we can use the example of that campaign that we just did. So we're hired to do a national TV commercial, and it's a pretty short script. It's 30 seconds. And we were writing scripts on our own. So we locked ourselves in our creative room. We got to work. We came up with some great scripts, and the client didn't love them. And then we took their feedback, put this into ChatGPT with our script, and ChatGPT was able to scan and read all of the TV commercial scripts within that industry that exist online and be able to compound them together and spit out something else that has been proven, which was fantastic. And it got us across the line. We're super happy with it. ChatGPT is my friend. But on the other hand, I was actually looking to do some research for some trends in fashion for a video we're going to talk about in relation to street style and Carhartt. And it couldn't help me get the answer because it doesn't do innovative or forward thinking concepts. And that's where you need to have a great mind, and tools like ChatGPT make great minds better. And that's where it could be a book for us to talk about, because there's so many factors that goes into the ability to ask the question properly, but it's a tool. It's not the solution. And you have to be doing the work. You have to be reading the books. You have to be watching the Mad Men to understand the nuance of the industry, to ask the right question. I was watching last night when we were with your son and his girlfriend, and how she typed in the input for a university paper she was doing. And she's a very smart girl, but her input question was lazy. And I read it. I'm like, this is crazy that this is how you would ask a question to ChatGPT. And the only reason why I'm bringing that up is it shows the variance to how we think, to how we ask, to the answer we receive. And understanding that level of thinking and that hierarchy in thinking is what you need to do as a business owner to ensure that you're hiring the right person for your business. You're hiring the right person for your business.
Just so many good ideas came out of this, talking about ChatGPT. So
I love ChatGPT.
I think that's the title. Headlines are important. You guys know that. Microscripts. This one probably should be ChatGPT is my friend.
ChatGPT is my friend. Goodbye.
Goodbye.